Okay, we got a question from Sakura48. You're asking, how do you train balance effectively? Um, there's a lot of ways to train balance effectively. I think you got to take a step back, and I think, right, you spend the most of your time either on your feet or in your bed, if you think about it, right? So they say that's the two places where you should invest a little bit of money, because you're going to spend so much time in both of those places, right, on your feet or in your bed. So um, if we put the bed aside, the moment I tested out a pair of minimalist shoes on a treadmill, this was like 15 years ago. The next day my feet were so sore, my calves were so sore that I could hardly walk. And what this said to me was that minimalist shoes allowed my ankles to function more freely, right? And it makes sense. The less you have in between your soles and the ground, the more that your feet can act like the lever, like a shock absorber. Think about your feet have gone through thousands and thousands of years of evolution to do what they are today. You can even see that when you take a step down, your feet kind of expand, right? Just subtly expand. So any shoes that are going to constrict your feet and make it so they can't spread out, that if you have thick soles, make it so that your feet can't act as shock absorbers and allow you to explode effectively. Minimize your toes' ability to generate. Minimize your toes' ability to generate power. So I think even before you start considering balance training, you got to consider minimalist shoes and kind of getting into barefoot as much as you can while being safe. Because anyone who's thinking about, like, from first principles, any time that you're not laying down, it's a balance activity, right? So on a deeper level, if you can give yourself a foundation for spending more time barefoot, a lot of people don't realize that is balance training. Someone mentioned before doing one leg, right? Standing on 2 feet. That's not true balance. They say, and this is coming from the book Balance is Power by Jim Klotman, that it's the time that your 1 foot leaves the ground. This is balance. That time it takes from one step to go to the other step, that's true balance. So any time that you're standing on 1 foot, that's going to work your true balance. Something to consider is using a standing desk or a counter to do your work on, schoolwork. If you work from home, right? Because now you're going to be naturally standing, and standing's better than sitting, right? It's proven that when you sit, there's a cascading negative effects that happen at a cellular level, and you're hunched over, your neck's hunched over. So anytime that you could be standing, not only going to work on your balance, but then that unlocks the ability to start getting into one-legged balance. The second thing that might unlock is if you start pairing, any balance tools. I think Kevin Kelly says, investing in tools, you want to start as cheap as possible, right? You don't need to spend a lot of money to get a lot of bang for your buck. So I have here an Amazon Basics wobble board. You could invest, a lot of, a cheap medicine ball for wobble board. You could start getting into some one-legged balance like this. You could use a foam pad. You could even use if you have nothing, you could use a towel. What up? You could even get into one-legged balance on a wobble board, right? So, or like I said, a towel. If you don't want to invest in anything, I'm sure you could stack 2 towels to give yourself to challenge yourself a little bit. I have here a medicine ball. Like I said, it's better to be on one leg, but something's better than nothing. So you could get into a two-legged balance. This is actually going to put your ankles in a favorable position, right? This is going to help prevent ankle pain, right? Think about monkeys when they're climbing trees. They're kind of using their feet to hug branches. It's going to put your feet in the similar shape, but then you could kind of play around with your hips and with your upper back, and just shop around. You could even start to get into maybe some one-legged balance, even though I would not recommend it on a hard surface, because you get a little sketchy, right? You don't want this to kick out. You want to take it easy. In fact, I don't recommend it at all if you're going to be on a medicine ball 2 feet. Another thing that you might want to consider, right? This RMT rope, pioneered by David Weck, has completely changed my life. And it's because it's passive, rhythmic balance training that involves, right, RMT, right? It means rotational movement training. It encourages you to bend and twist your spine. And since your fingers are connected, right, your body's connected from fingers to your toes, when you start swinging this rope around, it's going to tap in to your body's natural ability to keep a rhythm, right? You have a rhythm in your heartbeat. There's a rhythm to the game. There's a rhythm to life. So when you start swinging this puppy around, there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes that you can't see. But once you start doing it, you'll be able to feel this power that you'll be able to unlock, right, and unleash. So this helped me recover from I tweaked my hip flexor, and it was like a lingering hip flexor injury. At first I thought that walking with 100 pounds of weight to and from work, which was a mile and a half, I thought that strength would be able to transfer effectively from being able to carry that heavy weight. Not the case, right? If anything, it made me worse. This thing helped me recover rapidly, and what I noticed was immediately that my juggling started to improve, because my timing improved, as well as my rhythm, my balance and coordination. So just your ability to start swinging this rope around in different patterns, right, will allow you to, it'll just completely change your game. I can't recommend it enough. So check out David Weck, rope flow. You could search how to make an RMT rope. It's just a soft length of rope, right? It's a little longer than you are tall. Some people like to tie knots at the end so they have a little something to grip onto. And that's all it is, right? The diameter doesn't really matter, just something that feels comfortable in your hand. And I bring this thing almost everywhere I go, right? It acts as a, if you're you're going on vacation in foreign countries, it acts as a, you start swinging this thing around, people think kung fu. So it acts as a pickpocket deterrent. It'll keep people kind of at distance from you, especially if this thing's
ribs.
What?
It's good with these ribs.
Eat them. So with just those 3 suggestions, right? We got minimalist shoes, or spending more time barefoot. We have, a cheap, you want to spend more time if you can on a standing desk, or right, if you're watching games, watching TV, even playing video games, try to get into some one-legged balance, or spending some time on a wobble board. There's a slack block. Doesn't matter what you get, just as long as you start to develop some awareness in a one-legged balance. And the third thing is, right, I'm sure you have some rope lying around the house, maybe even a jump rope. You can use a jump rope just as as the same thing. If not, $10, you can make your own RMT rope. And so you got a lot of options. I would say take immediate action, right? I'm sure not all these things that can apply, but you can, if one of these things resonated with you more than the others, then try it out, test it. Don't take my word for it. See if it works for you. See how you feel. Right? You want to start to iterate immediately. Say, oh, okay, this one worked well. This one didn't work well. Right? You got to test it out. Test every day. Run tests and see. how does your training feel? How do your legs feel? Do you feel sore the next day? Right. So you got to play around, see what works for you, and but if you really want to see improvement to not only on the field, off the field, this one major game. I mean, all these, each one of these things, each one of these ideas has entered my life in a different way. So don't think you need to do each one of these immediately, but just test it. And when you're ready, then you'll walk through that door. So I hope some of these ideas help, and reach out with any questions. All right, thank you.